Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about my favorite single player tank designs for the latest version of HOI4. It took me a while to fully optimize them, but I'm very satisfied with the results, so I'm really excited to finally share them with you. Let me just say a couple of important things before we start. First of all, what do I mean by best tank designs for HOI4 in 2024? So what's best always depends on several factors, ranging from the skill of the player, to the playstyle, the country played, the resources available, and so on. We'll be talking about this in detail in a little bit, but tank reliability is the perfect example of this. A pro meta player will easily micromanage tanks with a reliability as low as 20% without issues. Put them in the hands of a newer player, however, and you will lose half of them to attrition before the war even starts. So the designs I'm sharing with you today are the ones that work best for me in my single player runs. They are very balanced and will perform well in most situations, but they're also flexible and can be adjusted to better fit specific needs. Now this leads directly to the second point I would like to mention, which is that this video will be a bit longer than usual, because I would like to explain in detail how I suggest using these designs and what adjustments you can make depending on the situation. You can use chapters to easily navigate to the designs you're interested in, or you can skip directly to the end of this video for a 40 seconds recap with all designs. Finally, if you wish to remain updated on future changes and improvements, please do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I know every YouTuber asks you to do so, but likes and comments really help the video perform well, meaning the channel will grow faster and I will be able to make more content for you guys. Now let's get into the actual designs in chronological order. Okay, so the first design I'm going to share with you guys is my light tank design for 1936. I'll be completely honest with you, I don't usually use this design because I do not make light tanks in general. I prefer medium tanks, and I especially do not make armor divisions this early into the game. That being said, some of you requested an early game tank design, so I came up with this one. Before we look into it, I wanted to mention a couple of important things, however, and that is which stats do we care about in single player? Mind that these are single player designs, otherwise you will come up in the comments and write these designs are garbage in multiplayer. Yes, they are. These are single player designs. So what do we care about in single player? We care about the max speed. We want our tanks to be faster. I would say 8 km per hour is the minimum. It's the ideal, in my opinion, for medium tanks. You can go up to 10 km per hour to match your mechanized divisions, and you can go up even to 12 km per hour to match your motorized divisions. The other most important stat is the soft attack. This will determine how much damage we deal to low hardness divisions, that's basically infantry divisions, but actually in single player, even the divisions that you see marked with a little tank in the game, made by the AI, they usually have very low hardness. They don't actually have tank battalions in there, so soft attack is the most important stat for all offensive purposes. At the same time, we don't care about hard attack because we are not going to fight other tanks. We also don't care much about piercing because, again, we are not going to fight armored divisions. Hardness is important because it will decrease the damage we take from infantry. Again, armor is mostly useless because enemy divisions don't usually have piercing, and if they do have piercing, they will pierce you anyway. So armor in single player is almost completely useless. Breakthrough is an important stat because it will determine how much we can stay on the offensive, so for how long we can continue our push. You can see the description here as well. Defense is hardly needed since we are not going to use our tanks defensively. We only use them to attack, and then air attack, of course, we don't care. So this is about the important stats. Of course, we want to keep the production cost balanced, not too high, otherwise we will not be able to produce enough of these tanks. And finally, let me mention reliability, since we were talking about it earlier. Reliability can be incredibly useful or almost completely useless, depending on you. Reliability comes into play especially when you suffer from attrition. So if you have very low reliability and you run out of supplies or you suffer from attrition, you will lose a lot of your tanks. If you micromanage your tanks perfectly and you avoid attrition, you perfectly manage your supplies and you're a very pro player, then you can get away with 20 to 30% reliability. You don't really care. So you can ask yourself this question as you're watching this video. Are you a pro meta player? Then probably this video is not for you. But if you still want to use my designs, but keep in mind that you can easily increase your engine and armor values and decrease reliability because you're not going to need it. If you're not a pro meta player, I would suggest having a reliability of around 70 to 80%. Here it's a bit too high, but keep in mind that this is late in the game. So if we use this design in 1936, we're not going to have this reliability. It's going to be lower. So 70 to 80% reliability is a balanced amount in my opinion. Okay, now let's talk about this light tank design. We are going for the 3-man turret to increase the breakthrough a little bit. Early in the game, the best armament we can use for soft attack is the close support gun. We use the basic radio to increase a little bit the breakthrough. We use the heavy machine gun for extra soft attack, and since soft attack is all we care about, we also add 2 additional machine guns. They're very cheap, but they also give only 1 soft attack. If you wanted, you could replace one of them with the wet ammunition storage to further increase the engine without completely destroying your reliability. Quite important, it's almost always worth going for the Christie suspensions here because they increase your speed. And no point in investing in the armor, so we keep the cheapest one. No point in changing the engine type, so nothing else to do. Next, let's get into some more serious designs, because this is the main design I use in most of my runs when I can afford to make medium tanks in time for World War II, around 1939. This usually happens with the major countries, like Germany and the Soviet Union. And while this tank design is very good, you can see it from the stats, we have very good soft attack, we get the speed that we wanted, the reliability is exactly where we want it to be, and the production cost is not too high. We are using the medium howitzer because it is the best option for soft attack, but keep in mind one thing, because I know for sure that someone is going to mention it in the comments. The medium cannon is also a very solid choice. So compared to the medium howitzer, medium cannons have less soft attack, more hard attack, more reliability, and they decrease your speed by less, so more speed. If you just looked at the stats like this, you would say, well, yeah, sure, medium cannon is better. You have better stats in everything except for soft attack. So what's the point in going for medium howitzer? The point is that soft attack is the most important stat in single player. So the extra hard attack that you get, it's useless because you don't need it, but the extra soft attack you get from medium howitzers is going to benefit you a lot more. That being said, if you prefer to have more hard attack, if you are playing with a mod that makes the AI have armored divisions, or if you're fighting a country with many armored divisions, like Germany, then maybe you may want to go for medium cannon. To be honest, when I played with the Soviet Union against Germany, I made a guide about that. I tested medium cannons and howitzers, and against Germany and their armored divisions, the medium howitzer still performed better than the medium cannon. So in my opinion, howitzer is superior. Then we have the radio. The best radio we have available is the tier 2 radio at this point, so we increase our breakthrough a little bit. The heavy machine guns for the soft attack. The last module is more or less free, in the sense that if you don't care about reliability, super pro player, whatever, use something else, you don't need it. Or you can still use it, and then you can increase your engine and armor to boost your breakthrough. Especially the armor, as you can see, boosts the breakthrough as you increase it. Nothing else to change here. Again, the Christie suspension is the best option. Riveted armor is the best option to keep it cheap. This is a very, very solid tank design, so much that you could use this for the rest of the game. You don't even need to change it. If you want to change it, however, in 1941, you can make this better design. Here I used an improved medium tank chassis. If you want to stick to the basic medium tank chassis, you can. But I prefer this one, to be honest. The other improvements we made here are, we used the improved medium howitzer, so we have a lot more soft attack. We used the advanced radio, and to get some value out of this radio, we also increased our armor to 9. Again, we increased the armor not so much for the armor. As I said, the armor is not particularly useful, but we increased the armor to increase our breakthrough and get more value out of this advanced radio. After all, if you upgrade from the previous design to this one, you want to get some value out of it, some better stats out of it, so it's worth the extra production cost. It's still fairly cheap. If you want to make it a bit cheaper, you can also replace this module with the easy maintenance one. In this way, you sacrifice some reliability, but you also reduce the production cost. So what's the issue with this one? First of all, you need to research it. And the maintenance company is something that is not absolutely needed, so you may not want to research it. The other issue is the design cost. The cost is 30 army experience, which is quite a lot, and you may want to invest your army experience in your doctrines, in other designs, whatever. So that's why I did not include this as the main module. I find this to be a safer choice overall. Now, before we check more advanced designs, let's also talk about the medium flame tank design. The medium flame tank company is absolutely mandatory for armored divisions. It gives some insanely good buffs. But if you look at this tank design, you will see very bad stats. And you may be wondering, why are we making such a bad tank? Well, the thing is that stats don't really matter on medium flame tanks. All that matters is the bonuses you get by adding the medium flame tank support company to your templates. Now, this is actually covered in a different video, but for now I just wanted to show you why the medium flame tank company is so important. And you can see those insane buffs to attack down there. That's why we absolutely want a medium flame tank company. It doesn't matter which stats the flame tank has itself. All that matters is that we have enough basic medium flame tanks to add a support company to our templates. Now, the reason the stats are so bad is that when you switch here to flame support company, as you can see, you get some insanely bad maluses. So basically all of our stats are destroyed, except for some, and that's why I added these modules. But keep in mind that these modules are entirely optional, so you don't need them. If you want, you can also remove all of them and go for the cheapest possible design. The reason I added these fuel drums is that you get extra fuel capacity, which is not reduced by it being a flame tank, and then the dozer blade also increases the entrenchment. Not very important stats, but actually having some extra fuel capacity on your tanks is pretty convenient. It means they will be able to push further into the enemy territory before running out of fuel. So I find this to be pretty beneficial. The production cost in this case doesn't matter that much because you don't really need many flame tanks. You just need enough to fill the support company. So using these modules or not will not change your game significantly. But why not adding them for some extra stats on your tanks? Also, filling a flame tank with fuel sounds like a great idea, so I thought, why not? I also made a 1941 version of this medium flame tank. It's exactly the same, we only have higher reliability and speed, which we don't really need. Reliability over 100 is a waste. But the thing is, it's actually cheaper than the previous design I shared with you, because we don't need to increase the engine. Of course, there is no point in upgrading to this one if you already made the previous one. But in many of my runs, I get to 1941 without tanks. And I start making them in 1941. At that point, if you already have access to the improved medium flame tank, then you may as well just directly go for this one. So if you already have the 1939 version, there is no point in upgrading. But if you don't, and you're starting to make your flame tanks in 1941, then you can go directly for this one. Okay, next we get to 1943. This is entirely optional. But if you want to make SPGs, this is the design I would suggest using. Again, ignore the stats down here, they depend on the country and so on, so just match the max speed of 8 kilometers per hour. What is important here are the modules. SPGs have the advantage of reaching a very, very high soft attack. You can see how insanely high this soft attack is. On the other hand, unfortunately, they are not as good as medium tank battalions because they have a wider combat width. And they also consume more supplies and are slightly more expensive to make. So this is only if you are a fan of SPGs. I sometimes make them for fun. But if you're not a fan, then I would suggest adding more medium tank battalions to your templates rather than adding an SPG. Finally, we are in 1945 and we got a lot of army experience and a huge industry. We really don't know what to do with it, and we decide to make modern tanks. That's the only scenario that comes to my mind, because there are really no reasons to upgrade from medium tanks to modern tanks. Now, of course, modern tanks are slightly better, but they're also more expensive. And the most important stat, which is the soft attack, is basically the same, so not really worth the upgrade. The main issue with modern tanks is that they don't have access to these very nice heavy machine guns. For some reason, on modern tanks, you don't have access to them, which means you cannot boost your soft attack further. I don't know why, it's a weird choice in my opinion, but that's what it is. So the biggest issue with modern tanks is that they are a different type of tank, which means that you need to replace medium tanks in your tank template, which is a lot of army experience wasted, but maybe by that point of the game you will not know what to do with it anymore. Moreover, you cannot gradually and automatically replace your medium tanks. You need to produce enough modern tanks first and then replace them manually, so it's quite annoying, time consuming, and absolutely not worth it. Still, this design is pretty good because we get a lot of hardness, we get very good armor, and also at this point, since I needed to justify the upgrade from medium tanks to modern tanks, I also increased the max speed to 10 kilometers per hour. And that's to match the endgame mechanized speed. By the way, in terms of modules, it's better to stick to riveted armor and then use the sloped armor rather than using an upgraded armor. But if you really don't care about the production cost, then I would suggest going for the cast armor and not welded armor, because the cast armor, despite being insanely expensive, is the only thing that actually increases the hardness on your tank. As you can see, we switch from 97 to 99%. Now, when I did this on Reddit, when I shared my designs, I got destroyed by people saying cast armor is shit, welded armor is better. We are not talking about value, okay? We are just talking about mere stats. Cast armor is better than welded armor if you're looking at the stats. It's not worth it because it costs a lot more, but if you don't care about the production cost, then cast armor is the best choice. This module is entirely free because we don't have access to those heavy machine guns, so there isn't much that you can use in here, but feel free to use something different if you prefer. And the easy maintenance is also more or less free, in the sense that reliability is already very good. This is just to reduce the production cost, because in this basic version that I shared with you, we try to keep the production cost balanced. But of course, if you don't care about production costs, you can use something else instead. The other modules are pretty much mandatory. Very final thing that I'm sharing with you today, if you do use those modern tanks, you will also need a medium flame tank that matches its speed. So this is again exactly the same design as before, but with a max speed of 10 kilometers per hour to match the modern tanks and the mechanized. And that's really all for today's designs. I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you will find them useful. Please test them in your runs because they work amazingly well. I know that if you're expert players, maybe you will have your favorite designs and you will think, oh, this is garbage, my design is the best. I just invite you to try them, test them, and let me know how it goes, because these designs work really, really well. I use them in so many runs. This one, for example, I used it with Germany in World War II, and I finished the war with 15,000 casualties, which is basically nothing. So they are very satisfying to use. Another thing that I was told is no point in using tanks. You can use infantry offensively. If you're a new player, you don't need to make tanks. But maybe you want to, you know, maybe you're playing as Germany and you want to use tanks, you don't want to use infantry to push, so try these tanks. I can guarantee you that they will perform very well, they will be a lot of fun to use. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel, it really helps. Other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Do not miss the other related videos on the combat with, the division templates and the plane designs, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.